Hello, everybody. My name is Dylan Barry. This is the NFT crypto metaverse podcast of the century. It's the best podcast that ever freaking lived in the history of NFT podcasts. And I am with my man, Mr. Scotty Page, the greatest saxophonist that ever lived, from a little band called Pink Floyd, Toto Supertramp. He's the GOAT. What up, Scotty?
You're too kind, brother. You're making my head get bigger than it already is, man. Thank you.
My man.
Anyway, hey, I'm happy. This is number 6, right, brother?
I believe it's 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this market it is 6.
That's right. This market's like moving fast too. Man, this thing changes like crazy. I'm having more fun than I can possibly I mean, this is such a blast. I love doing this show. And I also just love NFTs, the community. It's incredible. And I'm excited about some of our guests today. Brother Ed, who you're going to meet in a little bit, one of my favorite people in this space. I've learned a ton from him, and I hope he's going to spew some beautiful knowledge out to our folks out there. And yeah, it's exciting, man. There's a lot going on, man. We just finished up Mammoth Film Festival. We did our whole Think NFT there. We're getting ready now for South by Southwest, the 11th through the 14th. We're doing it at the place called the Speakeasy Elevate Lounge. And then we got NFT LA coming up on the 28th through the 31st. So brother, you and me, we're going to be busy.
Man, I'm super stoked about NFT LA because there's going to be a lot of incredible people in the house. Yep. And I'm going to be floating around doing interviews with human beings for a change, which is like, I'm sick of being in the box, but you know, it's going to be pretty exciting. So without further ado, I would like to say, first of all, if you want to hear what we have going on, follow us on our socials. I'm at Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, Barry Official. And we've got I am Scott Page on everything. And that's how you can find out where we are and what we're doing. Come hang out with us. Let's build together. Okay, here we go. So on the show today, we have Burney. She's the CMO at Vault. Vault is a creator platform that uses the power of Web3 to unlock the next generation of fan experiences. Also on the show, we have Ed Mason, founder of Frogland.io, which is freaking awesome if you haven't seen it yet. Wow. And the Notorious Frogs of Frogland are an amazing hand-drawn series of 10,000 generative, I can't, you know, I'm ex-glistic, so I can't read generative NFTs, with each frog being entitled to their lily pad, their personal access domain with Frogland, the most central, most founding district of the metaverse. So let's get into it with these fine folks right here. And I'll also mention, I have a special guest that will pop in on us later. So stick around. Matt Cook, who's a top consultant veteran in the media industry, part of the Sharknado VR game, Autumn VR, and a consultant at my company, SmashHaus. Okay, I'm out of air. Scotty.
That was good, man. Bro? That was really good. Well, first of all, you know, Brother Ed is one of my favorite peeps in this space. I have to say, I mean, I learned a ton from him. He's got probably one of the best teams, engineering teams, group of people, man. He's got the right kind of guys in the community management. And, you know, I'm very happy, Ed, thank you very much for coming on today and spewing some valuable knowledge out to our group of folks out there. We're trying to, you know, really educate people on the power of what, you know, NFTs are and, you know, kind of what's happening in the metaverse. And, you know, are we really at decentralized web yet, 3.0? Are we there yet, brother?
We are getting there. We are getting there. So certainly the right steps in the right direction. But in my opinion, what we're seeing here with Web3 is a new iteration of the internet itself. It's effectively us transitioning from a 2D internet to a 3D internet, with metaverses being the breeding ground for the content. It's a fascinating space to watch evolve. Having been in the tech space for about 10 years now, building hardware solutions with companies like NVIDIA and Samsung and Mattel, all focused on virtual reality. Seeing what's happened over the past year with the advent of Web3 and NFTs, it's brought a boon to the technology. We're seeing new interest and new content being created, and very sophisticated content at that, by an audience of individuals who are unimpressed with the way the Web2 world has been running. So all of these things I find absolutely fascinating, and it does mean this new age of this internet, this metaverse, so to speak, is on its way and it's coming fast.
Yeah, it is. Boy, it sure is. It's amazing. I mean, everything is metaverse right now. You're hearing that everywhere, right? It's fascinating.
Metaverse and metamates.
Metamates, yes. That's right.
Kara,
go ahead.
Kara, I was just going to say, Kara, I'm excited to meet you because what you're doing, I think, is very, very interesting. And I can't wait to dig deeper into what exactly the next generation of fan experiences is. So let's start with you real quick. What are you doing and how does it apply to Web3?
Yeah, well, first, I mean, happy to be here and nice to meet you, Ed, Scott, and Dylan. I'm really excited to be chatting with all of you and just sharing some big thoughts on Web3, as I'm sure we spend all day doing, immersing ourselves in and thinking about it. Yeah, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Vault, and we're really focused on creators in Web3. So we're focused on musicians, athletes, writers, any content creator who might be burned out from the treadmills that Web2 has created with advertising and subscription-based models of getting your content out there, where you cannot stop creating. If you stop creating, you stop earning. So that's really what was one of our founding motivations here at Vault. We're actually founded by a couple of the co-founders from FanDuel and the former CEO of FanDuel. So we've been focused on the fan experience for a while, but what we're focused on doing is giving creators a way to monetize their own story using traditional content, photos, videos, storytelling, sharing, music, putting it all inside of a vault that is gated with an NFT key. So that's what we're doing here at Vault. For us, it's it solves a couple of things in the space that we just felt like we're lacking. The ability to have a story that unfolds over time versus a traditional kind of NFT drop experience. And then multimedia expression, music, photos, videos, all of this kind of content versus being stuck into creating, a lot of people just default to a standard JPEG, which can be really limiting for athletes and folks who have an untold story. So we wanted to give creators a way to express themselves across mediums, let that story unfold with them, and let that fan feel a whole lot more connected to the creator throughout that process.
I love the fact that you're using the word story a lot, because really, for me, NFTs are experience, and it's really based around the story. That's what makes it all work, right? It's like, what's the unique kind of value proposition in the storytelling? And, and again, what's so great about NFTs is they can unfold. They're programmable, right? And when you start really thinking about the experiences that can be done with this, it's pretty mind-boggling for sure.
And what is really great, I mean, we're both musicians here. I'm a composer and I've been an artist, and obviously Scott is a musician as well. And I think one of the things that is daunting for people about NFTs is, how do I assimilate my existing world into this medium, right? And I think what you're doing is great, because the vault concept is you got to have a key, right? You got to have some way to access it, which is the NFT component, but you can still access the fan experience, which, I personally don't like the word fan, because it's like fanatic. It's like, these are my little people, but your followers, your people, your tribe. Yeah.
Your customers. I call them customers. That's what a lot of people done. Everybody gets stuck in this fan thing. It's like, is it a business or a hobby? Right? Business have customers and make money. So I like to think of it in those terms. I mean, I get it, the fan thing, and it's a nice way to put it, but.
And here's another thing that I would say is awesome about this space, is you're now allowing your tribe to be your shareholders. You're all building together. You all have value together. And that's what NFTs brings to this music space, which I think is the most exciting thing for especially independent artists,
That's exactly where we're spending a lot of time, is independent artists who, they don't make money off content creation today. They're posting off Instagram and YouTube to sell tickets to tours, which they haven't been able to do much of for the past couple of years. Touring has been depressed, of course, by COVID. And then we all know about Spotify and some of the really low return on investment that musicians get from streaming their music there. So that's exactly it. Give them a way to monetize with their smaller group of supporters. It won't be everyone who will buy a key, but those super fans, those folks who really care about giving means back to that independent artist, and they get a story back along the way. So that's some of the thinking behind it.
I would say,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Scotty. I'm taking all the air out of the
No, go. You go, bro.
I'm very excited, man. No, but what I was going to say is that I think that you say not everyone will buy them. And I would say not everyone will buy them yet, because pretty soon you're not going to be able to go to a concert without a key, without an NFT, without that integration.
You're not going to be able to go to the hair salon.
Or buy a house.
You're not going to be going to the restaurant, the bar, the freaking yoga place. Everything is going to be NFT, because it's really how it's the new economy. It's how we interact one-to-one. It's the complete total, direct to consumer business model, like at the highest level. Right.
And it's also going to screw up a lot of things because the IRS is going to make us have NFTs that are totally, and I'm like, maybe I don't want the world to see what, but Ed, tell us, look, I just dipped into Frogland. I think the character design, the world that you've created in there with your team is so cool. And I was talking to Scotty, I got to go get myself a little plot of land on the Froggyverse over there.
Buddy, I got mine.
Well, hey man, can I move in next to you, bro?
Yeah, man, I'm going to build me a venue.
Well, hang a garden hose
venue there. We're going to have all our crazy, because we're now bringing a bunch of legendary frogs to this party right now, right? Right, Ed?
I'm not quite a legendary frog yet, but
legends are classed in all different capacities. And so far, we have amazing members of the team, but also of the community who've been helping us co-create this space. We realized, having spent about 10 years in virtual reality personally, I invented the first self-contained virtual reality headset in about 2013 and worked with NVIDIA. I still actually retain that partnership with them to build a consumer product that focuses on building a new category in computing to really bridge the gap on getting virtual and augmented reality into the hands of the masses. So having given talks about the future of the metaverse for a long, long time, with people like the founder of Oculus, the author of Ready Player One before it was a movie, the idea of a metaverse that has sort of grown has been something very similar to Ready Player One. The idea that you're going to have all of these wonderful pieces of IP you recognize having fun in an online shared persistent space. But the reality of the situation is, do we think Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony are going to allow their IP to circulate in walled gardens or in unwalled gardens that they do not control? And I don't necessarily think that's the case, at least not anytime soon. So what I think is happening is a new breed of IP is going to be developed that is owned by the individual rather than by a corporation. And I think that's now happening by the way of these PFP projects, these avatar projects. I think we're going to come to a time where individuals will be able to mint an NFT, and that NFT will in some shape or form be involved in mainstream media. And that in turn will provide some level of passive income. So we're going to move towards a level of narrative and gamification, I believe, in the NFT space, where now the IP of yesteryear, the Super Marios and the Sonic the Hedgehogs, I think are still there in people's hearts, but ultimately a new kind of IP is now available to individuals that will be interoperable and transferable. So with Frogland, we decided, and in fact, I'll tell you what, while I ramble on, it's probably easier if I just show you Frogland firsthand. I can do a little screen share here.
Okay, the only problem with that is we're actually a podcast too. So what we'll do is when you listen to this podcast, come to our social media and we will post a photograph of this so that you can see, and a link to the site. Go ahead though, and they can sit through it and we'll explain it as visually as we can.
Okay. So effectively, the idea here also is having a space that is sorry, let me just do my settings. A space that is effectively an online shared persistent space, something that is somewhat reminiscent of a Twitter Spaces, let's say, or a Clubhouse room that would be traversable by effectively just walking around and communicating with other individuals that would be inside the space. So what we have is effectively a world that has been co-created by a community of individuals. And so we have sort of murder mystery sites. We have engagement that you could be able to go and play music on jukeboxes. You can read sort of interactive pieces of content created by the community, and effectively have a world that's got a high level of polish and detail that traditionally is not necessarily recognized, because metaverses that have been created up until now have been spaces made before the advent of these PFPs. So with people spending so much money on artwork, effectively, I think they deserve their own space that looks and feels like the artwork of the projects themselves.
Scotty, I'm going to kick to you in 1 second, but what we just saw was an aerial shot looking down on a frog walking through a very dark, sort of dingy, looked like an old PI set from the 20s murder mystery thing. It was freaking awesome. Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, I think Frogland is one of probably the best looking quality, high-end looking metaverses that I've seen. It really has because a lot of times some of them are kind of blocky and a little bit, not quite the real deal, but this thing is really crazy. And that's, I think that's an attest to the great engineering team that he has over there. But, one of the things that's so fascinating about Frogland that I loved is how you financed it. This is one of the things that the artists can do now, is you can actually use NFTs to finance your projects before your projects even get out. Tell them the story, Ed, real quick about, how Frogland came about and how you financed it and what you did. Because I think that's one of the powers of what this medium has.
Absolutely. So traditionally in game development and content creation, the idea is you rope together a proof of concept or a pitch deck. You present that to a series of investors. You convince them in the shortest amount of time possible what you're trying to achieve. And then with any luck, you would get some money to go and build the product. But the problem is, as you continue to build a product, you need to continue to raise funds. And that is problematic because ultimately, the more funds you raise, you're diluting the control and the vision of the founders themselves. And that can have severe impact on the quality of the content from the consumer's perspective. So having spent nearly a decade raising funds for hardware companies, which is no fun or easy task, when NFTs came about, I saw a new mechanism to effectively raise funds. As Scott so eloquently puts it, it's a wallet-to-wallet relationship with those who will actually use the product you're trying to build. So we came up with an ambitious plan, which was let's build a metaverse, but let's fund it entirely by the sale of NFTs. We brought on board the development studio, the former management team from Sony's flagship London studio, the people who worked on PlayStation Home and Game Wipeout and The Getaway and most of Sony's best-selling launch virtual reality content. And of course, with the Web3 team that we'd assembled from Rare Pizzas, we had the all-star team to be able to start building this new Web3 version of a metaverse. And the idea was effectively sell 10,000 frogs, create the funding necessary to start the development, and build this process with a community, whereby the community themselves would be able to see this project develop in full transparency. Every iteration, every piece of feedback, every concept art is shared with the community for feedback. And with that, we helped to build this notion of the 1930s, 1940s gangster frogs, the frog noir, as we like to call it. Very much a visual look and feel for the frogs themselves inside a very entertaining space. So effectively, the notion of we can build the initial vertical slice, we can build the prototype, the demo, so to speak, off of the initial sale of the frogs themselves. And in order to reward those earlier supporters of the frogs, if you purchase a notorious frog, then you will be able to claim a free plot of land within Frogland, within the centralmost district. But we realized we need to grow, we need to scale. And how can we do that where, again, we're not going to be reliant on institutional finance to continue to grow this space? And we came up with the model of land sales, effectively having seen what the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Sandbox did so successfully, where some projects purchased some land in one space and a community immediately followed suit. It was inspiring. And so with that, we realized if we can build a metaverse from the ground up that really looks and feels like the artwork that people are so happily spending so much money on, and give that a gamified space so that it's not an empty void reliant on users to provide the engagement and the interactivity, but instead it's a fun place to be as a single player or as a shared experience, then this must be the missing piece of the puzzle. Because this then transcends cryptocurrency, this then transcends NFTs. Regardless of what the market is doing, gaming is always a wonderful thing to do. As we've seen, people will play the same game day after day for months, if not for years on end. People won't be able to watch that same movie. People can listen to the same album, admittedly, but certainly won't watch that same movie every day for that amount of time. So as a way to reward our earliest, so to speak, investors, and I really do look at them as investors, we give them that plot of land. We allow them to have not only the initial NFT that they purchase, but they then get a second free NFT, and one that has the utility of buying land and being able to have proximity to other projects, proximity to neighbors, but effectively having a utility in the land itself that is a gamified state, so being able to have token emissions off of that can then be used in an in-game currency, but ultimately to be able to have your own dedicated space that you could showcase your own NFTs, let's say, or even sell your own NFTs. So from a technical level, the metaverse was really built to allow artists to be able to import NFTs of a number of different formats, be it audio, be it visual, be it 3D models or rigged avatars, and then be able to walk around a world that is more representative of the art that they are so enamored with. So in essence, building out the initial sale of the frogs allowed us to build the prototype. It allowed us to build the land sale contracts that will then at a later point in time allow us to open up additional land sales at other districts inside this overarching metaverse called New Pangea. So we partnered with a few other projects in the space. Gotta Cat Gang is one of my favorite projects out there. So again, they were one of our first partners that we announced, I think back in sort of May, thereabouts. And the idea is to have a district exactly following the Gutter Cat theme. And of course, these Gutter Cats are somewhat notorious in their own right, being able to cross-pollinate between the two communities and build up narrative that pulls these two communities together opens up some really fun things. So it all starts with a social club. It all starts with a center that has a stage, that has a jukebox, that has a radio that can all display audio content and visual content, filled with artwork on the walls that have been provided by our community. And you then pull together this co-creation where effectively you're relying on your community to give you the feedback, to be the alpha testers, the beta testers that help enhance the project. And then they themselves become the champions of the project, having seen the caliber of the team. And we have members who have sort of come from sort of 20 years working with George Lucas, been working on movies like Star Wars and Transformers, a creative director who sort of won the award for the Patronus in Harry Potter, like an absolute rock star team. And these creative directors that have such insight into Hollywood, when coupled with the creativity and the Web3 engineers, you get some really, really amazing things developing. So in essence, being able to build a model that will scale with the community. As and when we need to continue to finance and fund this thing further, we simply ask the community, which project would you like to be brought into the space? We build them a world, and then we have a land sale around that, and that goes back into the development. But yes, it looks like you have a question.
Well, first of all, you're like the Morgan Freeman of Web 3.0. And if I was an investor, I'd give you all my money because you sound like the God version of, yeah, I got this. Okay, well, good for you. That sounds freaking amazing. So quick question for you, and then I'm going to kick to Kara here. If I buy a froggy, I own a plot of land, what can I do with that plot of land?
That's a really good question. So first and foremost, it would be a method to showcase your NFTs. So if you have, let's say, some 2D images or you have some 3D models, to be able to import them in some capacity and then invite your friends in to come and check out your gallery, so to speak, is one certain utility that the community have indicated they want to do. But gamifying the space is very important. And so we haven't announced too much about this, so I can't go into too much detail, but in essence, we'll be having token emissions coming off of the land itself. So for argument's sake, if you had a plot of woodland, that could create 1 wood a day for argument's sake. And then if that's then accrued, that could then be used to purchase stuff inside this in-game economy. So there's a lot that can be gamified within there. And this is where bringing AAA game developers who have had a history of building really cool, immersive and innovative products gets to really have some fun. And then when we have a very sophisticated community, we can run it past and make sure we're building the right thing.
So you're basically leaning on an entire community of developers that can develop within your metaverse, and you can monetize in a million different ways. And you're using your NFT buyers to fund all of it. That's really cool.
And they're investors, don't forget, because they're basically as the community rises and as the value goes up, they're making money, right? So this is what's so beautiful about this is everybody wins in the food chain here. It's a killer model.
Do you have any frogs that wear all black all the time and spend most of their time in headphones? Because I'd like one.
I know we have a couple of interesting frogs, put it that way, but certainly we have this upcoming collection of legendary frogs, which is, of course, I'm very honored to say Scott Page is one of our first few of the legendary frogs.
Hey, let's go.
Hey.
Legendary frog.
I get to be a legendary frog. I can't wait.
I always wanted to be a legendary frog.
And in that case, we actually get our artist, the founding team, to sit down with Scott in this instance and find out what sort of traits and what sort of look he would like applied. And it becomes an entirely custom one-of-one frog itself. As a thank you for being such an active member of the community and helping promote the project and getting the word out there even further. Because when we set this up, we promised to our community we wouldn't spend any money on marketing. And we still managed to sell the project out based on purely word of mouth. And in doing so, we built a really organic community that knows exactly what we're building and how we're building it. And no one's coming in here under the false idea of sort of fake FOMO tactics. It's very important that, in my opinion, you build up a solid community that you are effectively building a foundation off of that you can build up together with. And with that, being organic, I found has been a lot of hard work, but ultimately I think it's going to pay off for the long run.
Well, I will be, after this podcast, I will be buying a frog. So Wonderful. You got me sold. That sounds awesome. Kara, I would love for you to give us a couple use cases of some of your successful they're not even drops or campaigns, your successful vaults.
Yeah, vault drops, yeah.
Vault drops,
I mean, a lot of what Ed was just talking through, I think, it applies across the board here. This idea of storytelling, inclusive storytelling and connection. If people are part of the writing of the story, they feel more connected to it. They're going to follow it long term, and they're invested in the outcome of it. And it's that same sort of feeling that Web3 creates. That we hope to help creators be able to curate and nurture with their fans. Same sort of thinking. So some of the use cases and things that we've been seeing creators use sounds, in a very similar way to building a company and launching a new ambitious metaverse like what Ed is doing, but from a athlete or musician point of view. So we have some college athletes right now who are in the process of going through the draft, going through the process of getting scouted, to find out at the end of the journey whether or not they're going to make it into the NFL, whether or not their college career continues, and they have a viable path to be a pro athlete. That's something that as fans of football, we get to see some of those outcomes, but we don't get to see the athlete's story along the way. We don't always know what it takes. So in this instance, we have a couple players who are documenting that journey. They're showing the showcases they're going to, the workouts they're putting in to try and help them stand apart. They're sharing their thought processes throughout what they're doing, how they're focused on their nutrition, who they are as an individual too. A lot of athletes are artists, musicians, fashion entrepreneurs on the side. So the use case really is, inclusive storytelling where you get to go as a fan into places, into that thought process that you may never get to go. I'm sure, Scott, that there are fans who would love to pick your brain, examine your brain about the writing of, or that one drum fill that you put in. How did you come up with that? What was the process behind it? And that's just one of the examples of the storytelling process that evolved.
What I love about the idea with these athletes, think about it, Sue, the athletes, they got to work out every day. They got to do stuff, right? So this gives them a way to fund their career in advance of them actually happening. I mean, that's the beauty of this process. I mean, like I said, it blows my mind. And I probably said this to every one of these podcasts, but I keep going back to this girl. I went to this NFT drop. She's a photographer. She's 20 years old. Nobody knows her. She's just somebody. She got into NFTs 6 months ago. She's paying all her rent. She's doing everything through NFTs. And what I really love is she says, oh, I carved off a little chunk of my drops for my community center. And she says, oh, I gave him 2.5 ETH. It was $10,000. Now tell me how many artists that nobody knows, like a street artist that's sitting there writing a check or putting $10,000 into their local community center. This is a very powerful thing. And again, I go back to it.
It is.
NFTs represent freedom to me, freedom at a level that is extraordinary because it is this direct-to-consumer model. It's basically bypassing an old system that's basically taken us over. And it's also basically driving the crypto market because people don't realize when you tie that blockchain to that object, it's currency again, right? That's value proposition. So all I can say is every artist out there, everybody, you should be putting the 30 to 40 hours of deep dive into this space and learning how this works because it will change your life. There's no question.
So you're listening to that's Scott Page there. If you're just tuning in on the audio podcast, Scott Page from Pink Floyd, and he's an entrepreneur of many exploits and successes. We have Burney on here, the CMO at Vault, which is a creator platform that uses the power of Web3 to unlock the next generation of fan experiences, and the Morgan Freeman of the Metaverse, Ed Mason, who's the founder of Frogland.io and leads a A-list team in this space, and you should check out Frogland. So I just wanted to check in there. Guys, could we just give everybody your socials so that they can follow you and dig in? Let's go with you at first, Ed.
Thank you. So Frogland_IO on Twitter is the company one. Unique NFT is my personal one. And website, again, frogland.io. We shall not talk about Instagram or Facebook products, but
there you have it. Kara.
And we're at VaultApp_ on Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter handle is at Weekend at Burney's, WKNDATBURNEYS. Not the easiest one to find, but I'm a movie buff and my last name is Burney, so I couldn't resist with that one.
Scotty Page is at I am Scott Page.
IAM Scott Page. And you can find me as a legendary frog soon too. Don't worry.
That's right, and me as well. My name is Dylan Barry. DYLAN Barry Official is my handle on everything. I also host SoundCloud Radio. You can hear me on SoundCloud on Dash Radio every Friday, 12 to 2. And I own a company called SmashHaus, which is a Web3 two-sided marketplace that harnesses content creators and pairs them with very large companies in Hollywood. So mostly music at this point, but we're also moving into video and images and even code-based content. There you go. So that's all the stuff we're doing. Before we get too deep in here, I want to bring my man, Mr. Matt Cook, on in here. Matt is a top consultant, a veteran in the media industry. He was part of the Sharknado VR game, which is getting a lot of press right now. And, Sharknado, come on, you can't beat it. Autumn VR is another project he was involved with, and he's a consultant and works with me at SmashHaus on various things. Great guy up there in the Silicon Valley. What's up, Matt? How are you, buddy?
Thank you for inviting me. Great cast of characters. Thanks.
Well, we're all just a bunch of frogs, but so
win Frognado.
Let me ask you a question, Matt. In listening to the two use cases of NFTs that you've just heard, what ideas does it spark in what's possible with NFTs moving forward?
Well, one of the most interesting things we knew this was going to happen, but they are testing it, is adding music, or in the sports world, they call it a walk-up song or a theme song to your avatar. And I'm sure Frogland is already, I mean, I'm sure that's in the works right now and with everyone else. But I think that's really interesting. And I think, that's your background. So that's fascinating how that's going to incorporate. And then you can remix. So let's say, I think top artists will start to get involved in this, because then the avatar can then remix their own version and then sell it. And then everybody gets a royalty of that. So anyway, that's what yeah.
That's pretty cool on the interactive side too. If you think about it, there's a collaboration element that's opening up that you can have trustless contracts without even talking to each other. It reminds me of, the Jason Derulo doing a duet with a million TikTokers, right? Only imagine you could do that and collect revenue on every single derivative version. That's what NFTs can do for you. It's exciting, man. Because look, I come from a world of independent artists, right? I've supported independent artists publicly in almost everything I've done since day one. And the biggest number one question is, how do I make more money? Because I have these gatekeepers blocking me at every step. I have, a deluge of people in the same space fighting for that teeny bit of real estate. Well, this opens a lot more real estate. Frogland just mentioned they have new real estate. Kara and Vault have new real estate. This is real estate that didn't exist before that you can monetize. It's very exciting. And I there's a lot of people out there in my space that are like, it's rubbish. It's bullshit. Why would you ever want to buy a JPEG for $4 million? And I'm like, well, you're not paying enough attention. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that, but you need to wake up because it's coming in hot.
I mean, music is one of those industries, I think, that we're most excited about at Vault, because it's one of those few industries where on the fan side, on the consumer side, there is so much pent up demand, not just because of COVID, although that's definitely, exacerbated it. But how many people are just so deeply in love, obsessed with, care about their musicians? They're in this deep relationship with the musicians they followed forever and awaiting their next piece of work. Now there's whole new avenues to support them directly so they can create more of the music and the work that you crave. And you feel more connected to it, just like how Ed, with his fundraising, his community feels far more connected, I'm sure, with the outcome of what he's building. I think for musicians in particular, it's incredible. And with content beyond just music, with their story, the storytelling process, all of that is a world that musicians create that is not monetized or easily monetized today.
Right. And I love what you just said. Again, I'm big on storytelling, is the fact that now I was actually having this conversation with Gashi yesterday, and he's such a storyteller, the way it is. And I start saying, well, now you can tell your story in a whole nother way. You're writing your song, you're telling the story, you're visualizing it. Now you can tell it through a visual aspect and kind of mash these things. So it really kind of creates a new art form in a sense. That makes me truly excited, because I love the interactivity. I love the fact it can be programmed. I love the fact that my NFT can change all the time. And I love the fact that NFTs can unlock other NFTs. I mean, there's like a whole gamification world that comes with this that creates a total new experience. And it's really, again, about, it's like, I think you hit on that. You don't have to have a massive audience to build. We're going to the 1,000 true fan model, exactly what Kevin Kelly had talked about years ago. It's like really the super fans. And we know the data that that the 60% of all the revenue that you're going to make is probably going to come from 1 to 3% of your audience. We know we have data now that tells us these things. So that super fan base. And one thing I love about it is when somebody buys your NFT, talk about an open rate. If I send them an email or I send them a text, they're always going to open up that email and text because they're bought into the process, because what they bought also has value that can actually go up. So they're going to want to know all the time. So it is like the ultimate, talk about 100% open rate. How often are you going to get that? I mean, it's pretty much close to that, right?
And I'd like to say too, there's a lot of skepticism with people that aren't in the know about the legitimacy of this. This business is absolutely taking off. JP Morgan just became the first bank to open a metaverse where you can shop with crypto and NFTs. JP Morgan, these people don't mess around. I forget who it was that said that China in the next few years will be $330 trillion business for metaverse and NFTs alone. So it's not like this isn't going to happen and it's a fad. It's happening. You've got people like Ed and Kara in this industry that are making big strides and big moves. So, Matt, I want to kick to you a little bit because you're entrenched in Silicon Valley. You're in with all the investors, the VCs up there. What is the buzz right now for the metaverse and NFTs on the investment side?
It looks like it's the marketplace. Everyone's going after the marketplace. I mean, that's the platform. We've already seen a lot of activity there, but we're seeing more and more. I think they're a little bit more narrow. And then we're also seeing they're really into the crypto side, the smart contract side up here, a little bit more wonkier. It's tough talking to them about entertainment and media up here. There's a lot of scar tissue with music and entertainment. So it's kind of more the unglamorous part, the back end, the GitHub. They're looking at really
the utility.
The pick and shovel, the real pick and shovel stuff, enterprise. And so, to be honest, it's kind of boring, but that's where the money's going right now.
It's funny to see because a lot of the VC people and stuff, they're a little bit panicked because I'm finding the entrepreneurs are saying, no, I don't want your money.
Yeah. Like,
right.
I don't need your money anymore.
No, we don't need you. We're good.
My own money for my own crowd. I'm not going to give up all the equity in my company. I'm not going to, this is going to flip. This flips the whole finance model around because I think, Ed, when you launched your frogs, didn't it like you closed your round like in the first day or whatever? Well, how did that work?
Yeah. So we had, we tried, everything we did with the project was to have the anti-FOMO, to make people do the research about the individuals, a fully doxed team, to know what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So we gave people, there's this whole allow list notion going on. So we actually gave people a few days to be able to claim their frog, to give them the best opportunity to find the cheapest gas, rather than saying, right, you've got 30 seconds, you now have a few days. And we whitelisted members that had participated by way of creating a backstory of their notorious past criminal deeds in a metaverse and what they may be scheming to do in a metaverse in the future, because ultimately they're 1930s gangster frogs. And that whole effort prevented a lot of the people coming in for a quick flip to join because they couldn't be bothered to fill in pages and pages of stuff, and ultimately gave us a community of people who are creating content that you can now see littered all over the metaverse in various little sort of Easter eggs. So in doing that and giving people a nice window of opportunity, we effectively started a really rock solid community. And then we opened it up upon the artwork reveal itself, and they sold out the day the artwork revealed. And that then, again, provided the funding needed to start the development process to get us to where we're now at. And in doing so, we had the funds, but we had the community of people who are going to use the product and would wait with us, which is why I think we still have about sort of less than 800 frogs available for sale on the secondary market before no one is going to sell their frog because they will want their land. And I think this is going to create a very interesting...
And it's their frog, right? They put in the work and the thinking and the creativity behind it.
Precisely.
So let me ask you a question because I'm just a little confused. So you, as a frog purchaser, what is all this information you're filling out? Are you creating and designing your own frog? Did I miss something?
That's exactly right. So you have the look of your frog itself, and that is the NFT that was created by the founding team. But we've recently partnered with a company called Hype that allows you to actually mint your backstory to the blockchain. So that would be a part of your NFT as it transitions through the space.
So you wait, hold on. You create the backstory so I can just make up my own frog story?
Precisely. The first thing that happens when you enter the Discord, and again, I'd urge anyone who wants to learn out, not just about Frogland, but NFTs in general, come to the Frogland Discord, because we have a great community of people who want to teach how to use this technology. But ultimately, upon entering, the first thing you're asked to do is to come up with your own notorious frog nickname. So I go by the name of Snoop Frog. But we have all sorts of wonderful names in there. And they are effectively your first take on a digital identity in a reality that's meant to be an escape from reality, rather than, hey, use your real life email address and your Facebook account details to log in to access the Facebook metaverse. That's just going to be a recreation of reality. And we really want this escape, this narrative driven world. So upon coming in, even before minting a backstory, you would still come up with your own name for your own notorious frog. And then upon purchasing your frog, you could then start writing a backstory. And we've had some very interesting stories everywhere from madams of the green light district to notorious smugglers and all sorts. So you get this really fun creativity that a group of 7 individuals would never be able to come up with, but a group of thousands of individuals can start doing some very fun stuff. And then things you never expect begin to happen. People start coalescing into gangs. They start scheming and plotting against each other because we have a casino in the Discord. We're not real money, obviously, but it's still enough that people get robbed. You literally have commands that you can rob other frogs if you're not quick enough to bank your deposit. So it's a very
well, humanity at its best.
Yeah, that's right.
It ultimately is, and it's all done in fun and games. It's done in a very friendly, enjoyable way. And when you come in, you are effectively encouraged to build out your lore, your backstory for your individual frog. And we'll have the canon lore that's created by sort of our Hollywood storytellers and the rest of the team. But ultimately, that is sort of the guideline. And from there, people will co-create what they want to based off of that. In fact, we weren't even going to have a casino until someone in our community says, hey, we want to be the gang that runs a casino, and said, fine, we'll build you a casino. And then we created a casino for them that you can buy chickens, and you can race snails and fight chickens and race. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Dude, that is a hell of a lot more fun than the Marengo Casino, because they don't have snail racing anything. Listen, I got to wrap this up because Scotty's got an important meeting to go to conquer the known world in Web3. And I really appreciate you all being on the show. I got my man co-host Scott Page from Pink Floyd, the man legend. We have Mr. Ed Mason, who is from Frogland, and you got to check that out, frogland.io. We have Kara Burney, Weekend at Burney's. We're going to hear that story the next time she's on the podcast. She's the CMO at Vault, and we got my man, Mr. Matt Cook, who's a top consultant and veteran in the media and entertainment industry. My name is Dylan Berry, and we are going to name this podcast something clever soon. Right now, it's just NFTs, Metaverse, and crypto for the music industry, right?
Yeah.
So Scotty, sign us off, buddy.
Hey, thanks. Thank you everybody for being with us. We love this. We're going to keep doing this. Ed, thank you, brother, for coming on board here. Like, I love you, man. I always learn a ton from you. Kara, it's great to meet you and learn more about Vault. And brother Matt, you know, we've got to talk more about all this stuff. So very, very excited. And thank you all. Don't forget, we'll be at South by Southwest, 11th through 14th. We're running a whole NFT crypto thing there for 4 days, music, hang. And then also NFT LA, we'll be down there podcasting. We're actually putting on, my company Think NFT is putting on the big event on the 29th at the Wisdom LA. It's going to be quite a deal. And NFT LA, we got incredible speakers. Mark Cuban's one of the keynote speakers. We got a whole series of folks. So anyway, we love you all. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Great show, everybody. We'll see you next time. Over and out.